Yo, what's up guys? It's Danny here, and today's video is going to be about 10 dating red flags you should probably not ignore. And now, if you're looking at me on my camera, I'm looking at the other monitor because that's my notes where I basically wrote about these quote-unquote 10 dating red flags. And I usually don't show my face, especially on this channel, because I'm kind of insecure about how I look. But it's something that I'm trying to get used to, especially because everyone has their own insecurities, and sometimes it's better to show it to everyone because we are all different. We struggle with something, so I think that's what teaches me to be human. Like, we all struggle with some particular things, and like sometimes we have to show our vulnerable selves even on camera, even if that helps a person out in a small way. But anywho, we're going to be talking about 10 dating red flags unfiltered. 10 dating red flags you should probably not ignore, especially if you're dating someone. Now, the philosophy I had when I'm dating a person is, am I compatible with them? It's not thinking about, does the girl love me? In fact, it's, do I think we are compatible with each other, right? And that's how relationships are formed. I've seen this in my parents. They're not very happy in their relationship. Is mostly because they don't seem to get that spark anymore. It deals with communication, right? And that's the first point that I want to talk about is communication. And if you guys don't have communication, especially in a relationship, there would be a lot of uncertainty, right? And uncertainty leads to unpredictable outcomes and events, especially if you're dating someone that you don't even know. Like, you don't want to waste time and money and energy talking to a person and they don't show any interest back. And from my experience, if there's a person that gives you one word answers, especially during a conflict, that tends to be a lack of communication, especially if they're ignoring your texts, maybe without any explanation. They kind of refuse to discuss any problems with you. So any type of stonewalling, in a sense, leads to a bad relationship outcome. And my second point, or second red flag that you should probably not ignore, is emotional immaturity, right? We want a person that is not a child. Like, let's be honest, we don't want to take care of a person that becomes such a burden to you. Like, you want to have your own autonomy, independence, and also less problems in your life, right? You don't want to take care of a partner that's just causing a lot of problems, especially if it's like on a daily occurrence. If it's on a daily occurrence, it's like you have to regulate them. You have to check up on them to say, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it just leads to a bad, satisfying overall relationship. And research kind of shows it right here that, emotional competence is positively associated with relationship satisfaction. And if you're basically, emotional competence is like you're able to regulate your emotions. You're basically able to regulate your feelings. Mature people are generally better at resolving conflicts and maintaining healthy relationships. So if you are dealing with a person that's immature, oftentimes not, break up. I don't think it's gonna able to work out. Maybe I'm wrong, but from the research I've seen, you're not able to really regulate that person for a long period of time. Now, my third red flag is a lack of trust. We all need trust in our lives, right? We need people that we depend on, but also we don't want to overly trust them, especially if we have no prior experience in meeting them, especially if it's a stranger. And strangers are different from a partner, obviously. But usually, from my life lesson that I've learned is that actions speak louder than words, especially if you're dealing with trust, because trust deals with consistency in their actions rather than words, because trust, if, for example, I work at a 9-to-5 job, right? I work a full-time job. My manager doesn't understand if I should trust me, right? He doesn't know if I should trust this person to be on this shift. But eventually he learned to trust someone because, again, the actions speak louder than words. And you should follow that philosophy if you're trying to trust someone, especially if you want to have a long-term friendship or partner with someone. Like, you're going to be partnering up with that person for the long term. Short term, maybe, who knows? Whatever your intentions are, you need to trust someone in order to find a long-lasting relationship. My fourth red flag is a person that still loves their ex, or they assume that they want to get back to, or you assume that they want to get back their ex. Usually, it ends up being bad. Like, I remember this girl that wanted to basically talk about her ex during every date. Like, she would be constantly talking about her problems with her ex, and we're just dating, we're just trying to have fun time. but she kind of just brings it off, that tension, that feeling of discomfort whenever she talks about her ex. It's like, oh, this guy treated me so right that particular day, and then he broken up with me because, you know, he felt like I wasn't right for him, and he was also talking to some other girls. And that's when I was like, you have to move on. And that's my biggest lesson. If a person has never truly moved on, you should probably never end up dating that person, because they have probably a hidden agenda to get back with their ex, and that's typically not the type of relationship you want, especially if you're trying to have a long-term relationship, and that will lead to trust issues. Again, that comes from the second point, right? I believe I said the second point, that it leads, that relationship often ends with a lack of trust. So again, if you have a person that's talking about their ex, they want you to resemble like him or her, it ends up being not a good choice. All right, my fifth red flag is a relationship based on validation. And sometimes, often not, we want to be complimented, right? And it's natural, it's healthy. We want to be validated. That's fine. That's perfectly normal. And we want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be confident with ourselves again. But if it's like a perpetuating cycle and like a constant cycle where your partner has to like tell you like, oh, you are handsome, you're pretty, and I can't imagine myself as a partner telling my other person like, hey, you're pretty for 365 days. I mean, obviously I could, but that becomes emotionally exhausting for me, especially if I'm trying to do something else. And nothing, again, I'm not saying that's bad or anything, but it just becomes a problem, you know. And if it's based on solely validation, that means that you're not truly building a genuine connection with that said person. So if you're talking to a person maybe online and you guys were just talking and chatting about, you know, how their day was, and then they want a compliment from you, then that's kind of weird, right? You're supposed to talk to a person that you love and you want to know that person, right? You want to get to know them, about their qualities, maybe their hobbies, what they do on a daily basis, what's on their typical day. You know, that's a standard relationship. But if it's based on validation, you try to just revolve around ego boosting. You know, you're just ego boosting about them, like, hey, you look pretty, hey, you look handsome, and that becomes exhausting. And you don't really form a genuine connection with them. You just say this, you compliment them this, and that becomes taxing. Sixth red flag is a person that controls you on a daily occurrence. Like, let's be honest, we don't want a person that controls our every other move. We want to have our sense of independence, autonomy, and freedom. We shouldn't be in a relationship to be living under a constraint. We want to be free. We want to have our own experiences and novelty that we can seek based on ourselves, you know, our personality and what we feel. And so if you have a partner, you know, it just tells you like, hey, I'm going to surveillance you on which person you're talking to. I'm going to monitor your location. I want you to turn on your GPS. You know, I think over surveillance is not a thing you should be worried too much about. You see, again, it comes from trust. Trust, again, is hard, but you have to trust them. You know, you can't just be surveillancing someone. Like, it becomes unethical. Like, you don't want to have someone just spying on you on your back, just doing something else. Like, you want to have your own independence. So if someone is controlling you, especially your partner, it's not worth it. All right, my seventh red flag is dating someone who is insecure in the relationship, and it could be you or your partner. So in my personal life, I was insecure about myself, mostly because of my physical looks, especially my acne scars, and it kind of deterred me away from, you know, being close to my partner, mostly because I felt inadequate. I felt ugly every single day, and I wanted to be validated. And so it comes from my last point, or whatever point I said, about if the relationship was based on validation, and typically it ended pretty badly because I was over relying on them. I was giving so much pressure for them to tell me every 365 days to tell me that I am handsome. You know, I know it's cringe, but it's true. Like, you don't want to have your partner to tell you like, hey, you are perfect, you are everything in the world, you are sugar and spice and everything nice. You know, that's awesome, that's cool. Like, it's awesome to be validated, but it shouldn't be constant. You know, it shouldn't be on your face every day. Like, you're gonna rely on that. It's like drugs, you know, and we know that if there's too much of it, it's not too good for you, right? When something's too good, where something is highly potent, it's not always means like it's gonna be healthy for you. There's a healthy balance. My eighth red flag is most of your family and your friends don't like your partner. And that's a huge giveaway that your partner is a walking red flag from the straight get-go. If most of your friends and your family simultaneously, concurrently tells you consistently about similar issues that they predicted from the first start of that initial connection or that establishment where you talk to them. So, we know that our emotions sometimes blind us. It blinds us in our shopping spree. Maybe we looked at a nice car, like, oh my God, this car is beautiful. I want to buy it. And then my mom's like, no, you can't buy that, son. You have no money. You're going to be broke. You're going to be on loans. So like, why would you buy a car? And it's similar to dating someone, right? Like we see the beautiness, right, of the extrinsic object or whatever we see. And, we see that highly attractive, physically attractive person, but we don't see what's on the inside. We don't see their past history. We don't see their other variables outside of them that we think that this person would be highly attractive, functional, and sort of positive, but we don't have that objective truth. The only expertise and truth we can get is from our family and our friends, because their emotion isn't blind. They're going to be objected to because they're not attracted to them. If they're not attracted to them, then obviously they can give you guys a logical truth and reason. And if they give you that same particular reason consistently with your family, your friends, it's a dead giveaway. All right, my 9th red flag is someone who keeps a dark secret past. And I'm not saying you should share all your secrets, especially your normal ones. Maybe it's like a embarrassing moment at your birthday party. Maybe it's someone who but then you don't want to share that. Obviously, that's not gonna harm anything. When I mean by dark secret past, I mean something that could harm the safety, someone's well-being, right? And if we're talking about our partner, we don't want to compromise their well-being. We don't want to compromise their safety, and that could potentially harm them. So if we are possibly a drug dealer, for example, we could tell them like, hey, I'm probably going to be arrested soon. Maybe, I don't know. If I get caught, obviously I'm not a drug dealer. I don't do drugs, guys. Look at me. I'm a high functioning person that doesn't do any drugs. I'm a psychology person. Anyway, so basically this is an example. I'm not a drug dealer, but I don't know why I'm telling you guys that, but I swear I don't do drugs. But again, if you're sharing a dark secret, you should be mindful, like, hey, you're dating this person for the long term and you don't want to hide any single thing, especially if it deals with their safety, again, their well-being. So if they're going to be stressed out whenever you get arrested and you didn't tell them that, they are going to go crazy. They're going to absolutely just leave you. Like, what you should tell them the first time you met them. It's better to tell your dark secret, and not hurt their feelings. And sometimes sharing our secrets also comes with vulnerability. Like, you have to accept that you have to be vulnerable with them, especially if it deals with something that you cannot share with. But hey, that's where relationships formed. You need to share some secrets in order to have a good lasting bond. All right, my 10th red flag is a person that abuses you. Like, who wants a partner that abuses them emotionally, physically, mentally, physically? List goes on. Like, I don't want a person that controls me. Again, that comes from the other red flag, that they are controlling you, they are manipulating you, gaslighting you, guilt tripping you. You don't want to feel shame, guilt over something that you haven't done, right? Or maybe you have done it, but you don't want to feel over shamed. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but you don't want to feel like you've done something bad. Like, you just want to have a person that says, it's okay, don't worry, it's fine. Like, you want a traditional person that says, hey, that's okay, let's move on. Love shouldn't risk your freedom, your safety, your well-being. It should be safe. It should be safe, friendly, and similar to like a friend, right? And I think my biggest advice if you're dating someone is to have someone as your friend, and then as soon as you guys get well adjusted to each other, you guys accumulate and talk to each other more, then obviously it becomes more natural for you to like them as a person. So yeah, guys, what do you guys think about this 10 red flag tips that you should not ignore? I don't know, maybe it's useful. And disclaimer, I am not a pickup artist. I never dated I dated someone, but it wasn't that long ago, so it didn't last as long, basically. So anyways, that's it for me. That's basically my experience and my research knowledge on what red flags you should probably not risk yourself and ignore, especially if you're putting more time, effort, energy, money, and a lot of things you're sacrificing for a person. So these are some things that you should possibly think about whenever you're dating someone. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Hope this helps you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.